when 10,000 people are suffering for one person to make it on the top, you know? So,
gentlemen, excuse me if I may interrupt. I'm noticing that we have probably exhausted what there is to say regarding this CNN article, and wondered if you guys would be, since we're talking about Burkina Faso, I was just searching up some things in the background here. Let's see, here we go. No video and audio for this one, but we were talking, like, one thing I kind of like in Wyatt's reporting, and Wyatt is like, I don't have a video of him here now, but Wyatt has pointed out that the Mali and Niger, the military junta there are U.S. trained, and we have an article from the Independent here. I also saw there was one in Washington Post, but I didn't care to create an account for that. So, but basically, short, a military leader officer declared himself in charge of Mali after leading a coup. Trained by U.S. state and spoken frequently with Germany and France and whatever. Okay, cool. People can read that article. You can see that here. Then we have another article here, and this is a little bit less expressive in that regard. The guy, what's he called? The guy who, the Niger coup leader, he was trained also by the U.S. And we have also noticed that the U.S. has quite a few, they don't say much about this as they usually would. And this guy, it's a little bit hard for me to kind of read through here and kind of focus, but the article here, which I think I will have put in the link in the description. I hope you guys can help me remember it. But let's just go for it by the headline here, right? We have both in Burkina, in Mali and in Niger, both of the coup leaders have very clear connection when it comes to the U.S. in the military training. You mentioned Burkina Faso, Alpha, and here is kind of an exception. This would be Ibrahim Traore, and his only foreign training was in Morocco, where, of course, he would probably be having some things to do with the U.S. because those two countries are quite tied. But and you see, he has a Marxist this thing by itself that doesn't smell American. Let's just put it like that. He also has most of his military career has been fighting jihadist insurgency, and his only foreign involvement is basically with the UN in the peacekeeping force in Mali during 2018 with the MINUSMA. So if I just kind of, let's see, where are we here? If I just unpin this one here and we can kind of get back to the discussion. We were talking.
Yes. Don't forget about Guinea too. The leader, I think he was trained by Western country leaders too.
Yeah, United States.
Well, there's something I think so when it comes to these trainings and everything, right? So the training thing is its own industrial complex. You're either trained by the United States, the British, or and the Russians have not been in that game for a minute, but I think they're coming back. Yeah. But so somebody has to train you. But just because you were trained by the Americans, it doesn't mean you support them. It just means that the government paid for you to get trained by them. It doesn't necessarily mean you support them. Like, what do you call him? Idi Amin. Idi Amin was trained by the Royal Army of the British. Ask the guy what he thinks about the British, So I don't think there's that now. Is the U.S. taking a slower step with these nations that have had coups? Yes, they have. But it doesn't necessarily show that the U.S. supports those coups. It shows the U.S. has actually matured enough now not to take sides like that because of the possible political risk. France is stupid. France is the one that keeps taking sides when it comes to African elections and all that.
But Kelly, don't fall for that. Please don't fall for that. The United States never pick up a side. they always play both sides. Always.
No. Actually, what I mean is when I say pick a side, it doesn't mean they're picking a side, but they're not public. I should have actually made that.
They always,
they're not
they always
publicly.
say we got nothing to do with that. But if you do your investigation, you're gonna see pictures.
And they're also avoiding any adventures because remember in Niger, I don't know whether you guys remember this. I can't remember the number. It's got 9 Green Beret special forces got killed by jihadists, and some of that was even caught on video. Like some of the best trained American forces were killed in Niger, and you can even see on one of the pictures, you can see an American soldier lying on the ground. The GoPro is still taking the video, and you see one of the jihadists come and just pop, just kill him. So those jihadists, they're not easy to fight like that. Not the way people think. They were smart enough to fight the U.S. right next to them so that the U.S. cannot use air support. But the point is, they learned their lesson from those adventures because that was a huge potential scandal. So now they're not directly getting involved like they would back in the day.
Yeah. So can I just say something quick? Based on what I understand, all these leaders in all these 4 countries, besides I don't know about Gabon, they're all trained to protest their country for terrorism. Because I know Doumbouya was trained to protest, to go against terrorism, and same thing, and pretty much all the rest of the other people. So if this is happening because they're trying to fight terrorism, but end up throwing their own government. So is this something that's not going well on the training, or somebody giving us some propaganda, or they believe that, oh no, we don't respect what these people training us for, or what these people saying. So that's point I was kind of confused on some area.
Actually, Alpha, you actually answered that question the last time we were talking. You said that it's actually almost like a trend. They realized if you can do a coup, this is the time to do it. You're the one who said that. So
Yep.
I think that's one got away with it. They were like, yeah, let's get these other guys out too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the United States is so invested with Ukraine, and it is also it's been airing a lot of hostility or at least it's a lot more increased belligerence between China and the U.S. on Taiwan. Now, whether that is actually something is just for show or actually going to pan out is a different thing. But when NATO kind of has to admit that they're running, and publicly admit that they're running out of ammunition to supply to Ukraine, which is basically just a partial war for Russia. Russia is not a full war or anything like that. And granted, neither is NATO, but NATO is the biggest, the invincible military alliance. The United States have emptied their emergency reserves around the world.
Defense military alliance.
No, did I say defense? I did not. If that, naturally wash my mouth with soap, because that's yeah. But so my point here is that, yeah, I think it's more than just revolutionaries that would have it. There will be also opportunists, but the suspicion that the U.S. might be behind some of these coups in the Sahel, I don't think it is necessarily too far-fetched either. But because the argument is valid, I would say they may be too embroiled elsewhere to not say anything, but it's still very uncharacteristic of the U.S. to not say anything, especially when you consider in the Sahel region, the AFRICOM is the short for Africa Command is I think it was one of the biggest parts of the U.S. military budget. And it's the weird quirk with that one is though that the main headquarters is in Germany, because the African countries wouldn't allow them to have it on their continent, but they would still have many of the bases. So what they have, this is one of the reasons, Macchiati, you were surprised that they have a base in Ghana, right? And it is, granted, it's not a fully fledged military base or anything like that in the nominal sense, but it's definitely a logistic hub, and they refer to it like that as a part of chain for where the things are going to occur. So you know, with all that being said, when they already have that infrastructure, they also have that geopolitical grip on most of the countries there. They already have that, like, and they also have the base. Their biggest base is actually in Niger. Biggest base, and the biggest is a $100 million project or something like that, right? So it is. I find it very strange, or at least, I find it strange that they wouldn't be saying more than this. They are not being more.
Here's a thing to remember as well. So before, the US did not have any competition when it came to information warfare in Africa, right? Nobody really challenged them. The Russians were so afraid of sanctions, they would not do anything. Right now, though, the Russians have really sharpened their information warfare, meaning one mistake and the US may turn the whole population of Africa against them. Just one mistake. You see how much France right now is being hated by everybody in Africa? Like one mistake can make the US get hated so much that people start demanding all those bases to go. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to start bombing those countries? No, you can't do that. So I think the US is handling Africa very cautiously, because this is one of those times where you have to be really careful, because back in the day, people didn't have WhatsApp and things like that. They didn't communicate that well. Now, an American soldier gets caught doing the wrong thing, goes all over the country. Then people are like, wait a minute, why do these guys have a base here anyways? You know.
So you're thinking like an Arab Spring event is something that the US is worried about, if I got you right.
Yes, they're worried about. Right now, if their reputation is tarnished more than it is right now, because there's nobody in Africa right now who will say we like the US base here. Nobody will ever say that. But they just can't do anything about it because their government decided without their permission to put that damn base there, right? So the issue now is that if they mess up and they get the degree of hatred like that's going towards France, towards them, it'll cost them a ton of money to clean that image up. And it'll cost them a long time. Some of these times, you basically, sometimes you have to wait for a whole generation of people to die for you to be forgiven. You know what I mean? So it may take you like 50 years for you to be forgiven for one mistake. So I think one of the reasons why they're very careful is because any mistake they make, the Russians and their networks back in Africa can blow it to a whole other proportion. And one day Americans will just wake up and they're the most hated nation in Africa.
Yeah, and don't forget too, because like the fact that Western, like many of these Western countries censored Russia to point, and they also censored like North Korea and Iran. Now these countries started working together in Cuba. So basically, any other African nation that they push, they definitely have a market now to go to. You understand? That's why I believe why America is like kind of letting it go. Don't want to push too hard because they know what will happen. If you start pushing too hard, these people now have a market to go to, because you can censor Russia as much. If Russia still buying stuff from China, definitely there's no point of being sanctioning them. Because China is like almost like the market where you go buy everything. You understand? So many of these African countries, if they get sanctioned by Western countries, they may not get aid, you know, and probably they're gonna get probably some aid from Russia or China and get some more trading from them, and then that basically means they're making the other group more stronger. That's how I feel like why America is kind of a little bit relaxing on it and don't want to help France, because they know the benefit of it is not going to be worth it. You understand?
I don't think France is not a good friend to have right now.
Exactly.
If you see these people, you know, no one is mentioning United States. I know this country in Africa, they don't like United States. They don't. But they just mentioned France. And I think that trip Peter Nuland made to Niger, I think they negotiate whatever you do, just keep our base there. Because the people, not even, you know, just outside of that military base or nearby trying to cause trouble. Whatever they do is against France. And you see Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, Central African Republic, all these countries, they just talking about France. It's France, 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 France. They want France out. They don't even mention United States. So the beef is against France, not against the West. And I'm sure all these countries still want to deal with EU, just without France involved. If France is part of EU, that's good, as long as they don't get involved in their political
Wait a minute.
business.
What is it?
That's,
What does Africa get from the EU again? I forget. Is there anything we get from there?
Angola
so
get
basically,
tomatoes and rice.
no, in Guinea, they don't get that. So basically, in Guinea, usually the stuff they buy from Europe is like cars and a little bit electronic. But if you're looking for cheaper electronic, they usually just buy from China. And they buy everything else from China. And then when they buy from China, when it comes to Guinea, people from Liberia, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Sierra Leone, they come and buy from Guinean people.
There was actually this thing I saw. It was so funny. So Chinese people who visit the United States are complaining because when they come to the US, when they go to the US and they buy like memorabilia for their like people back in China, and then they package it and they give their Chinese people as a gift. When the Chinese open the gift, it's made in China.
Wow, that's really
So they're like, wait a minute, you went all the way over there. I could have just gotten it down the street, you know.
So have I understood you, gentlemen, correctly? Like none of you think actually that the U.S. has much of a hand in orchestrating the coup or anything like that.
Oh no,
No,
that's
we're
not what we're
We're
saying.
not saying that.
That's not what we're saying.
But
When it
because
comes
because I'm thinking.
copying, when it comes to Q, is United States. Don't your fingers go straight to the United States.
Okay.
Even if the Q is in the United States, is the United States.
What I was saying was,
Hear me out on this one, because I think this is worth in context, especially for people who may not watch our earlier discussions and stuff. So, because if I'm not mistaken, anyone here correct me if I'm wrong, but both Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have all been couped at least once, including Guinea also. I think we should maybe give an honorable mention to Guinea, even though they're not a part of the alliance of Sahelian states. They are still like
Friends.
pretty much like they're very close friends, unofficial ones, and they have much in common because they are part of the Coup Party after all, where they've been couped twice, if I'm not, at least like coup on a coup, right? And so the same is for Niger, the same is for Mali, the same is for Burkina Faso. Now, of course, all those prior coups could indeed have been the U.S. making a coup and indeed trying, as Wyatt, because I'm just going to call it Wyatt here, he made this explicit suspicion that it was maybe the U.S. pushing out France, which the U.S. may have tried. But from what I understand from what you guys have said so far, is that maybe that was the case for those prior coups. But these last coups, they're different.
So,